This podcast is sponsored by Relevant, a location-based mobile network personalized by your interests. Customize your newsfeed to consolidate all the information you care about all in one place to quickly and easily find what's relevant to you. Find out what's going on in your local area and reach your community from the palm of your hand. Relevant is available on iOS and coming soon to Android. Be the first to know with Relevant.
What's going on, everybody? You're listening to the Poorly Edited Podcast. We're here at Live at 13 again. My name is Coffee Guy, and I'm here with the usual idiots. I have Chandler here, sort of, all the way down in Florida. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic.
That's good. That's great. Pat?
Yeah?
How are you?
I'm dandy.
Good. We also have a very special guest, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, guys. I'm Courtney Calle.
And you describe yourself as a one-woman game dev.
Yeah.
And if you look on your Instagram, you also describe yourself as like every other cool and creative thing that's out there. And we're going to get to that, I promise. But, Pat, you're doing this... What? Don't say that. Pat,
What?
If you could be so kind as to tell everybody what you're doing in October every single day.
I have to do that again?
Yep.
I don't know, every single day. I'm going to try to watch 31 horror movies in October.
Okay.
And it's...
How many have you watched in the past week?
Past week's been rough.
Okay.
I watched half of Pet Cemetery. I watched half of Children of the Corn yesterday and fell asleep on my couch.
You told me. You're like...
Yeah,
"Do
I'm
you
like,
think
does that
I can-"
count?
No, I'm like, no, that doesn't count if you fall asleep. You have to watch the entire movie.
Dude, I got really
Tape
bored.
those lids open. You gotta...
Yeah,
the whole
exactly.
thing.
Right, exactly.
He was so scared that he fell asleep.
That's pretty spooky.
Man, Stephen King movies from the 80s are not that scary.
Yeah. So
Except for Pet Cemetery. Pet Cemetery is a great movie. Everybody should go see it.
are they remaking that or something?
They are remaking Pet Cemetery.
Okay.
The trailer came out today.
Okay.
Everybody should go watch it. It's
Gonna be great. Right, perfect.
Sure.
So was it just Children of the Corn that you saw?
What else have I seen? I watched the Purge, the first Purge movie.
Oh yeah.
Not a fan.
Right.
Really didn't enjoy it. Was really bored.
Chandler told you to watch that.
He did.
I told
It's
you
his
to watch.
fault.
I didn't say it was a phenomenal movie or anything. I just said, like, then you'll get it. Like, you get it, you know?
I still don't
it's-
get it. I wish
Yeah.
it was a different movie.
Yeah.
That's not a good
They're
review.
all bad.
Dude,
They just get
I was
progressively
sitting
worse.
there and I'm like, we're watching rich people in a house being safe for like half of it. And I'm like, I don't care. They show people dying in the streets. I want to be there, not in this house.
Yeah, if you wish
That's
like
the
it's a
second
different
movie.
movie, if you wish it's a different movie, like you open the DVD pack and it's a different TV,
Yeah,
and you're
that's
like,
what- oh, this is so much better.
That's bad.
It's just
Yeah.
flubber.
There's literally 4 times in the movie where someone's like, one of like the murder people are standing over one of like the heroes, I guess, and they get shot in the back. And I can start counting on it halfway through the movie. I'm like, oh, it's this setup. I know someone's they're gonna get shot in the back, and they're fine. So there's no tension.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So Pet Cemetery, not the best horror movie you've
Pet
seen this
Sematary.
week. Meant to say The Purge. Not
Same
the...
thing. They're like
I
the same
watched,
thing.
I also watched the remake of Evil Dead,
Okay.
which I kind of
Okay.
enjoyed. It
When
was
did that
alright.
come out
All right.
again?
2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw that.
It wasn't
that
bad.
bad.
Was Ash in it?
No. Or he's in an after credit scene or something.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought, yeah.
So I assume you watch some horror movies.
I
Because
do,
you make
yeah.
horror games.
Yeah,
So what? You have any recommendations for me?
I mean, I only have like a couple like classics that I just rewatch
one of them
over
The
and over and
Purge?
over again.
Did I just
No,
ruin it?
no. I'm
Okay.
glad to say no. My favorite ones to rewatch are Alien and
Okay.
Psycho. I
Oh,
love
Chandler
those.
loves Alien.
Like, oh, so good.
Pat, didn't you just... No, you watched... Didn't you just see like American Psycho or something?
I did
like
watch
that?
American Psycho. I
Okay.
don't know if that
Does
counts
that
as a horror
count?
movie.
I don't know.
Hulu categorizes as horror, so I watched it.
Well,
And I enjoyed it.
Hulu knows everything.
And
It's
it
a
was
good
probably
movie.
scary. The 4 seconds of tension in that movie, where it's actually like a horror movie, is scarier than the entirety of The Purge.
Okay.
So
Well,
if I'm counting The Purge, I'm going to count American Psycho too.
All right.
It just seems
that is
fair.
it. Where do you draw the line on horror? Like, can it be like a climate documentary that's scary?
Yeah,
Does
dude,
that
that's
count?
terrifying.
That's
That's
what
scarier
I
than The
mean,
Purge.
like,
too.
Yeah.
Where do you draw the line?
I think The Purge is now my litmus test. If it's
Okay.
any scarier than The Purge, it's a horror movie,
Jeez.
which is not hard.
What about Scary Bad? Does that count too?
Scary? What do you mean?
Like it's so bad it's scary? Does that not even
I
exist?
think
No.
cringe is different than scary.
That's fair.
You know.
Yeah.
What if we
Different
watched
category.
31 cringy movies in 1 month?
I couldn't stand that, dude. I already live it every day.
Yeah, we don't need
Wow,
any
that's
of
cold.
that. What are your other picks, Courtney?
Yeah.
Other
Besides
picks. I mean, like,
Alien was solid.
oh,
So-
absolutely solid.
I trust you
Solid
so
is
far.
solid.
Have you played that that alien game where you're just like trying
Alien
to stay
Isolation?
safe? Yeah.
Alien Isolation.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I think you play as like Ripley's
I forget
daughter.
her. Yeah,
I have
yeah,
no
you
idea.
do.
Oh,
You do.
that is so cool. That
Yeah.
that got me hyped.
My
I was
favorite
hyped about that because like
There's also
Ripley
a level
is,
you can get where
Ripley's
it's
a
on the
badass.
the
Yeah.
first movie's ship,
Really?
and you play
Yeah.
as Ripley.
What?
Yes.
Oh, that's
oh my
cool.
god.
Dude, the coolest
So
thing
good.
about that game, though, to tie it back into our guest, is they designed it so that the alien actually has two brains, which one knows exactly where you are, and he's giving hints to the other brain, which is learning
What? How do
to
they
figure
do
out where
that?
you are.
What?
I have no idea.
Some crazy
I
AI.
read, yeah.
It's,
Like the AI in
yeah.
that game is like actually pretty damn smart. So it's a hard
Insane.
game.
It gives hints?
yeah, it's like one
That's-
brain, is like...
I don't even know if I'm okay
One
with
brain's
that.
basically being the Riddler for the other brain and giving him
Because
like,
they
stupid
didn't want it
clues.
to just
Sure.
heat seek you
Right, yeah.
immediately,
Which is
you know.
good.
So it like plays a game with itself almost
That's
of
crazy.
how to figure out where like what's going on. It's insane. You should read up on
Yeah,
it.
like
It's
from a
crazy.
design perspective, it's really boring to just have like a
Yeah.
monster that knows where you are. But then there's like monsters that like have no clue where you are, and it's like, dude, I'm literally
pretty much just
right
that.
under you at
Yeah.
this desk. Like,
Yeah.
do you not see me?
Right.
Like, that's ridiculous. So then you have that brings back a good balance.
Yeah,
with that
for sure.
monster. So.
Because
Absolutely.
difficulty in... I feel I've hit a point where difficulty in games is really annoying for a lot of them, where it's like... If you put it on hard mode, there's just like 3 times the enemies for no reason, and they're just as
Yeah.
stupid and useless.
Bullet
There's just
sponge
more of
type
them.
enemies,
Yeah, or
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Call of Duty
Which is
World at
fun.
War where they spawn
That's
grenades on
artificial
you.
difficulty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it's like
Yeah.
it's nice to be actually like make a game that's hard, and it's not just the amount of enemies or how damage they do. It's like it's actually
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah, like I'm more into like story-driven games
Yeah.
and like
Mhm.
puzzle games and stuff that uses like strategy, maybe like resource management.
Yo.
Like as opposed to like competitive games, like
Yeah.
online competitive. Like I get so much crap for like, oh, you're not a real gamer girl because you don't play like Fortnite. It's like, are you kidding me?
That's
You
my
don't play
favorite.
I'm also not
Overwatch.
4, so like
yeah,
get
I
off
don't
my
pl-
case.
The whole-
Yeah, like I, just because I like to go a little solo, like
No, I
enjoy some
drifted
story,
away from
you know?
competitive video games a long time ago, and I'm
Nice.
not looking back now.
Now you
Not
just
me
sit on
either.
PoE and make trades
Yeah.
whenever somebody
Yeah.
asks.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't have time to actually play the game.
You're not
so
a
I
real
play the
gamer
market,
girl,
dude.
Zach.
It's fine.
Nerd.
It's fine.
That's when you know you're an adult, is when you just get involved with like the online trade market for whatever video
It's
games you
exciting.
play.
man.
It's exciting. You're like checking the stock exchange numbers for the items.
Dude, I
milestone.
got an expensive skin once in Counter-Strike, and I was checking the price like every day for the longest
Oh
time,
my
and I'm like, dude, it's gonna go
God.
up, it's gonna go up. It has gone down like $20. I really missed that. I should have just sold it.
No, you got to find ways to flip, not necessarily just like, because trends are too sketchy. I don't deal with that. I try to flip.
You try
Tell
to
me
like
more.
scam,
Not quite scam, but like you can make
just
little.
persuade.
Yeah, or like.
I would do that
making-
on Warframe.
Yeah.
Like if you
lot.
shine the shoes before you sell it, you're not scamming. So
Yeah,
it's still
yeah,
shoes.
right.
It's just-
that's
yeah.
still shoes.
Come on.
Right.
That's a good
It's
point.
a
I need
valuable
to buy
lesson.
shoes.
I should shine my gun in Counter-Strike, and
You
then
could do that.
sell it for more.
Shine it factory.
Polish it
Shine
up.
it to factory new.
It's a factory new.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Okay.
You know, I was saying earlier to Lizzie, we started a year ago, the first episode of the podcast, we had Madison Hughes on, and she was down in Florida, and the huge hurricane last year was going on as we conducted that first interview for the show, and she was in her dorm getting pummeled by that hurricane, and now it's really come full circle because now I'm in Florida getting pummeled by a Category 4 hurricane while we're
Jeez.
recording this show.
That's
So
really
it's
funny.
really like, it's really come a long way.
So you're saying is we wasted the last year?
We've not made it
We're
anywhere.
back where we started.
I've put myself in a worse position than I was a year ago. Like, I'm in a more dangerous
You were in a
predicament.
call with someone who's in a hurricane. You're like, I want to do that.
Can we
I wanna
talk
be
about
her in this
something real
Sounds like a
quick?
good idea.
What?
Storm is married.
Storm got married. Storm Hutchinson got married
Storm
this
Hutchinson
weekend.
got married this weekend.
We used to have a
Yeah.
friend on this podcast named Storm, and then he left for bigger, better things,
He got married.
and he got married.
Like getting married.
Out of
And
nowhere.
he might still be on his honeymoon. I talked to him like 2 days ago. He was on his honeymoon. So, yeah, I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, hell yeah.
He's,
I just miss him.
I miss him too. And he has his life together more than I do.
It's also
with those
terrifying,
things.
though. I couldn't imagine myself
It's
married
terrifying.
right now.
Me neither. I'm
It's
not
like-
strong enough to make a commitment like that ever.
Is Lizzie in the room?
She is.
You cut out.
I said she is.
Okay, nice, dude. That's funny. So anyway, let's move on to your game.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about it. What's it called?
Okay, well, it's called The Ones Left Waiting. It's tape 1. There's 3 chapters that are going to be coming out. And they're about, like, gameplay-wise, I'd say they're, like, from an hour to 45 minutes, hour to 15 minutes. Like,
Okay.
It's, like, good gameplay time for, like, what it is. And basically, it's a story of 4 college students that are kind of, like, paranormal vloggers. And usually they're used to, like, spicing up their video footage to like make it look kind of, you know, like a hoaxy kind of thing, you know, like we have like one character that's basically like the Jake Paul of the group, like he's like, oh yes, the camera's down, that means that, you know, the subs are gonna think that shit's happening, but it's, you know, nothing. It's just our crap
I
equipment.
bought and played it yesterday, and I enjoyed that part where they were like,
funny.
something was actually going wrong. He's like, dude, this is great for views.
Yeah, so he's
Like
more of like
us.
he's like the figurehead. I watched a lot of Ghost Adventures for inspiration for that guy, like Zach, I think his name is, that Ghost Adventure guy.
I have no idea.
I don't know if you've ever seen Ghost Adventures, but he's
No.
basically this really like bruh kind of dude. And
Yeah.
he's like, guys, there be ghosts here, bro. Like, I watched a lot of Ghost Adventures for that guy character. But then there's 3 other characters. There's Jamie. She's kind of more of like the journalist kind of girl. She's like kind of more into like doing research on the place and like some of like the video stuff and the tech stuff. And then there's Rena. She's kind of like a medium psychic that they kind of like take along, and she can like sense things and communicate with things. Like, it's really cool. I really like her as a character. And then there's Dylan, who's like just complete like video tech nerd, and he's like, I don't mess with any of your social issues. I'm just here to like film
Hell yeah.
stuff. So like whatever. So yeah, that's
Now-
them. And then I mean, like, I don't know.
By the way, I felt more tension in your game than The Purge, so your
Really?
game is a better
Okay.
horror
Oh,
movie than The
yay!
Purge.
Does that count as a horror movie?
That counts.
This
I
week?
did it. Yep.
Okay. All right.
31. We did it.
All right.
Yay!
Horror is, no matter what medium you're in, hard to pull off. What do you draw from to scare the shit out of people?
There's a lot of inspiration. For one thing, this is like you know, as I said, I watch a lot of like paranormal shows just to like see like just how they use the equipment, what gets them scared about the equipment when certain equipment goes wrong, and like if it. And one of the biggest things was like technology taking over, which I have like kind of in my game splashed in there a little bit, and then another thing that's like really scary is like just like the absence of noise can be more scary than
Yeah.
just putting stuff
for
in.
sure.
Yeah.
And the absence of anything, any kind of like cue or kind of like direction is really scary.
It builds that atmosphere.
Right, yeah.
And you play around with that.
Another way that I did research was actually watching a lot of horror Let's Plays, and I watched a lot of like critic like Let's Plays, and like I'd watch them, and they, even though they weren't in the same program or, you know, weren't in the same style or anything like that, maybe they were like more action-y or like whatever, like I would still take like their advice of like, oh, I don't like when the story's being told this way. If there's just notes all over the place, I'm not about it. Like I'm like, okay, take that down, and
Write
I just,
down that
you know,
note.
yeah. So I'd have like, you know, my game window open and this going in the
Yeah.
background, and eventually I'd be hearing like some advice of like, oh, okay, like.
Yeah. That's
So
cool.
yeah.
What horror games have you played besides, I mean, your own?
Oh,
Like,
I'm a
what-
huge chicken, so like I
Okay.
usually watch a lot of them.
Okay.
I've only played like a couple of like Steam games that were just like really like, I gotta be honest, they were like really corny.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was also for like learning experience too. Like,
Yeah,
sure.
you know,
Two
those kind of
things
like Unity
about
stuff.
that. I love that you brought up that you're a chicken, so you normally watch it, because we've
Oh.
talked about in the past how horror in video games is really neat.
I'd rather
unique.
scare people than be scared.
Yeah,
TBH,
sure.
You know.
You have to be the one who pushes yourself through that. It's not
Yeah.
like you're just watching a movie or watching somebody else. You have to
Yeah,
have the courage
you're in
to
it.
push through that, and that's really cool.
And honestly, like I mean, obviously, like the program that I'm using now, it's like very limited, and like there's no 3D graphics, you know. Obviously, there's no capability or possibility for VR and all that other cool
What are
stuff
you
that's
using?
coming out. I'm using
Yeah,
RPG
what-
Maker.
Okay.
That's
And
what I
RPG
thought.
Maker is like really like simple. Like their big advertisement is that a 10-year-old could do it. So I'm like,
I'm
I'm about
interested
it
to.
because
I was interested that of what you pulled off with RPG Maker though, because I've seen a lot of other RPG Maker games and they really
oh, so good.
only do the basics
yeah,
for a lot of
but
the stuff
yeah,
that you see.
it's kind of hard.
But you really went a different direction with it and really made a really unique thing with it. that is like almost not even an RPG, kind of not as in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
I mean. So it was. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I don't know. I just think that a lot of like the horror kind of comes from like the content as opposed to like the surroundings and everything. Like, as much as I would love to like work in like a bigger studio and have those capabilities of doing like VR stuff and having 3D graphics to work with my story and my music and everything like that, like 2D and pixelated games sometimes can scare the crap out of you too. Yeah. It just depends on the content and how it's like executed.
Exactly. It's all about atmosphere and story when it comes to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Which is why, well, maybe not which is why, but like the scariest game that I've played, and I never knew it was going to be scary going in. The scariest game I played recently was Subnautica.
Oh.
Yeah.
What was it?
It's Subnautica.
Oh.
I don't know if you're familiar.
Isn't that, I saw somebody playing that on stream, and at one point they were like flying around in like open ocean, swimming around in open ocean.
It's really such a like, you know, they advertise it. It's such a like cute like underwater adventure.
It's absolutely terrifying.
Oh, I'm so scared of the ocean.
It's absolutely terrifying.
I can't.
Because
like, have you ever seen Soma?
I've heard of that. I've heard of that.
If you're scared of the ocean,
I think I own Soma because of Twitch Prime.
Man, I can't even. I have to stop playing Subnautica because I just can't do it. Like you just get so far under the water, it's completely black, and there's just these giant fucking creatures around. And they'll
just like real life.
They'll just like turn on a dime and just launch at you, and I just alt F4 out and I go to bed.
Dude, one of my favorite horror games, The Evil Within, and I played.
Nice.
It's like creepy, and the imagery is really creepy, which really drew me in the first one. But I beat it pretty easy. I didn't have to like take any breaks because I was too scared or anything. But there's this DLC where, like in the original game, it's like Resident Evil 4. We get a ton of guns and stuff, so it's like you can fight what you're scared of. Yeah. But dude, there's DLC where you don't get a gun at all, and I haven't finished it yet because it's so it gets to me so
I've
much.
I've actually seen that too. It's really good.
It's dude, there's like this really creepy monster chasing you around, and there's points where it's like. Yeah, you're stuck in this room, and they can find you really easily. And every time they get you, it's terrifying to see yourself die. And you just have to avoid them for like 3 minutes. And it's
you just gotta run and pray.
Like like more the game takes control away from you, the scarier it is.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and that's another thing with RPG Maker is that like, you know, the scenes are controlled. You don't have a lot of open world experience where you're like, okay, wander around the house. That would be so hard to program in RPG Maker. First of all, second of all. You know, that makes it even more scary. It's like, okay, I'm only confined to this room. Obviously, something's gonna happen in this room. Right. So, you know.
Suspense.
What kind of, because you made the game entirely by yourself, which means you, like, designed and programmed and wrote and everything, like, what were some of the hardest challenges doing all that yourself, like, throughout the project? What kind of... You know, were there a lot of, like, hang-ups with the programming or something like that, like the bigger obstacles?
I would have to say, like, I actually made a game before this one, and I made it for free. Like, it was just kind of like a test drive to see, like, you know, is this path actually, like, worth taking? Because I've done a lot of other creative projects, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of like a mishmash of them. I don't know if adding them all together would be very good, or, you know, if it doesn't work, that's fine. But my last game, I think it took me, like, a year to make that game, and it was the same amount of gameplay time-wise, and maybe even less with like because there were no puzzles in it. It was basically just like run away, hide, decision-making kind of stuff. And that just the fact that took me a year, and this game took me like 5 months, really showed like how much I learned. And like the transitions were smoother, like everything was more professional. Before, like my first game, I got, you know, because it was for free, a lot of people downloaded it and they were like, oh, this doesn't work, this isn't working, you're missing a PNG file. It's like, oh, just like really dumb things where you're like, oh crap. Like really rookie mistakes. And then after that, like making this game was such a freaking breeze. It was just so nice. Probably the only thing I would say was like hard was trying to take away the default stuff. Like RPG Maker comes with so much default stuff, like the default window, default text, default title screen, default music, and you know.
So you wanted to make it your own kind of from the ground
like,
up in a thing that's not meant for that very much.
Yeah, like it's really kind of a turnoff to have an RPG Maker game that costs money and has default stuff. Like it's like if you look at it and you're like, I could make that myself. Obviously, like even though my game's $2. You wouldn't want to spend $2 on default setting stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
So that was probably one of the hardest things because a lot of it had to do with like diving down into like script and kind of messing around with plugins and that kind of thing. Everything else is very much like set up where like, you know, I had like my own artwork in it. Not just like screen pop-up art, but also like the faces of all the characters and the sprites and everything. Like
Which you all did yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
So those were easy to implement just because like the game program is like, oh, here's how to implement them. But like when it comes to like, yeah, I kind of want snow to fall on the title screen. They're like, oh yeah. You're gonna have to look on a forum, friend. Like, good luck with that.
When the help file takes you somewhere else. Not good.
That's just programming and stuff in general. Is like, all right, time to get on those forums and see if like Stack Overload has.
And out of all like the like art mediums that I've ever like dealt with, I'd have to say game making is the most like fail, succeed, draft stuff that you'll ever have to go through. Like you will fail more times in game making than you ever will making music or doing art or any of those things, because like if you could make a piece of art and you're like, it's all right, like you could still print it and like it'll look fine.
Right.
But if you have a game and you're like, that's gonna make problems for you later. Like, you know, it's not gonna fly.
Yeah.
So
best case scenario.
it's a lot of fail and try again kind of stuff. It's a lot of trial and error, but it's really worth it. It's really fun. So.
We're good at the fail.
Yeah,
sure. So
we'll get to passing one day.
Yeah, probably not. No.
I do.
Now, yeah, I'm sorry, Pat.
Okay. I've always wondered. So there's like a couple puzzles in your game.
Okay.
And how do you approach making those? Because like, do you start with the idea for the puzzle and like, I don't know. I'm going. How do you approach that?
The first thing I do with any like game is like story. Story is like probably like the most important thing that I start out with. Then next is like, next I'd have to say is puzzles after that. Like all the integration of puzzles, and then after that comes like gameplay. So like kind of integrating puzzles into your gameplay kind of comes like secondhand after that. But like coming up with the puzzle themselves, like I usually like watch a lot of like point and click stuff. Like that's where a lot of puzzles like kind of lie. So I kind of like take inspiration from that. And like, you know, I watch a lot of other like RPG horror game like Let's Plays, and I'm like, and it's really funny because I used to watch them like a long time ago, like mid-high school. Ooh. And, you know, and watching them that time, you're like, oh, you know, whatever. That's just what it be. That's just what it do. Yeah. But watching it once you like know the program, you're like, oh, how'd they do that?
Right.
That's some smart stuff right there. Yeah. Like you're kind of like, oh, okay, I see you. Like I'm gonna do that. Like, you know, with certain like, because there are limitations. Like basically the only like puzzles are in RPG Maker that they're like, oh, try these for yourselves, tutorials, or like switches and number code, and that's it. And that would be really boring to just have those. Yeah. And fetch quests. You know, I like to stay away from those as much as possible. Right.
Do you worry as you're doing it that like this puzzle is not hard enough? Do you have like a test group?
Oh,
because I'd be paranoid
I have a
that
team
it's
of
just way too
testers.
easy.
Shout out to my homeboys and girl. But like when it comes to like the puzzles being hard, like I definitely like when I come up with the puzzles, I try and like almost order them. So that, like, if I can, you know, if it doesn't have anything to do with plot, I try to order them to, like, easiest to hardest, so that it's, like, kind of gradual throughout the game. Yeah. Like, you don't want to be hit with, like, a cipher in, like, the beginning of the game, and you're just like, screw this. I'm uninstall,
it's really important,
you know, like, you know, so I save that for, like, the end when it's, like, you know, they're invested, they're in it, they're immersed, and they're like, okay, I maybe died 2 times.
I have to be very invested to solve a cipher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get really frustrated with puzzle games. So.
Yeah, I'm scared to try it because I'm bad at puzzles.
Oh.
But
if I got through it, I believe in you too, Zach.
Well, you have a personal connection if you need help. So.
Okay, sounds good.
Hey, help.
It's like the best possible connection I could have.
I thought about writing a strategy guide because I thought it'd be funny to come here with a strategy guide written.
Oh my gosh.
But I didn't do it.
Oh, man, I would have loved that. Oh my god. That's too much.
We can still make it. It's not off the table.
Please do.
I have like 9 other things I have to do.
That'd be amazing.
Would you have just quizzed her on it?
What?
It'd be a joke. Like, do you know your own game? Sort of thing.
That's a good
I'm
idea.
sure she knows.
We should reschedule and do that.
I've played this game more times than I think I've like had time to myself.
What was that?
In the last like 2 months. Like I've played this game so many times. Like the space button. is my friend. Like, I'm just like, dialogue.
I did. Oh, by the way, I love the fact that you put in the option to skip the scrolling part of the text. Because when the text box shows up and it's like saying it really slowly, and you can press space and
yeah, I hate that. Especially when it's like, if you fail, hypothetically, if you fail at a puzzle and like you had like dire consequences to that, it's kind of like, okay, I'm only gonna put 2 lines for that, or even no lines at all since your save point, because it's like. It's so annoying. I'd rather them just be like, load game, there it is, and let's go. It's instead of like, it's you again. Blah, 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 blah. Like, oh god,
die to a
like,
boss,
please
go through a
stop.
5-minute cutscene.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna put it like a boss dialogue kind of thing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not into that.
You said that story is your main focus when you make a game, which struck me as not like odd, a little unconventional, but like it seems. Regardless of that approach, you still are very heavily your mind is really set into the gameplay as well, like because everything you say makes a ton of sense, and you're always thinking about the user experience, and something like you don't want them to have to go through a bunch of dialogue every time they fail a segment is like, those are just little things that show how much attention you have to being that player and what they'll experience. And I feel like not a lot of indie developers that, because you said this is what, your third project?
Yeah, second one.
Right now? Second?
Yeah.
It's I would say there's a lot of people who wouldn't do that at this point.
I feel like a lot of indie developers that I've seen, or some of them, there's like a certain category, are more like, they're kind of like students, and they're kind of like testing a lot of stuff. So like basically that first game that I'm releasing, they consistently release like maybe 5 of them a year or something like that. So sometimes like that is what happens like when you have like, someone who's like kind of like, I feel like there's some game developers that are they just want to put out stuff because it's what they want. Like, and that's fine. Like that's totally up to you for like, your piece of art to just be for you. Like you don't have to make your stuff for other people. Just personally, I would like to make it for other people, and I'd like people to be able to digest like what I'm feeding them, like let them enjoy it, you know, in their own way.
I feel like that's what makes games is that anyone who picks it up is a different experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Even, no matter how linear the game is, I feel like it's really cool that I can play through a game with the exact same game somebody else did and have a completely different experience.
And that's probably the most fun thing ever is like the testing phase of like, because I'll actually like have them like over Discord and like have them like screen share, or like I'll see their face reaction and I'll be like, oh, where you at? What are you doing now? Or I'd have screen share and I'm like, oh, you about to do that? And it's just so much fun because like each person just reacts like completely differently, and they like, and I tell them, I'm like, please talk out loud, say your thoughts out loud, like just whatever you think or you're thinking, like say it out loud, and like they'll be like, oh, I don't know why I can't click on this, or like, why don't the leaves make a noise when I step on them? And you're like, oh my god, like, oh perfect, this is great.
I think that you can. I liked a lot of the little touches that I figured wouldn't be in there, I guess.
Yeah.
Like you could like step on, like there's like glass in the ground someplace you can step on and make some noise. And you actually put thought into the sound design, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
There were a lot. I didn't get to play it all the way through, but there were a lot of little details that I noticed right off the bat where I was like, this stuff is so smooth, and like the sound design really struck me too. Everything just felt like I knew it was an RPG Maker. I could feel that, but at the same time, it was the smoothest game I had ever played in RPG Maker. Like
God
it was,
bless.
there was so much like little detail. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I really dug that. Like right even from the main menu, I was just like the sound effects of that main menu just like felt crisp and right, you know. And then as you transition into the game, like it just felt like really, I don't know.
Oh,
I was
I'm
into it
glad.
for sure.
Oh, God bless. I'm glad. Oh, thank goodness.
So clearly, you have that down. Yeah. Do you want to stay in that spot? What do you want to do next?
Like after this series, I'm planning on. I mean, I still love.
Because it is episode 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do have 2 more to go. I just started writing dialogue for the second one, and honestly, like I love RPG Maker. Just like because I know I'm used to it. I'm like aware of like what I can do. Like I'm aware of the like walls I can break with it, and like I'm really into that.
Yeah, that's gotta be cool.
So I definitely would like to do like my next game after this one would definitely have more like fighting, like actual RPG style fighting and stuff like that. and adding that in there and like, you know, making that more personalized and less default but other than that, I would love to like, I mean, my big goal is like to kind of have these as like portfolio kind of content and be like, hey, like I made the music, this all of it, just hi here.
If you see anything in here, it's me.
It's me.
My name right there. So
did you go with the episodic way of releasing these because you wanted to be able to kind of make them in more bite-sized chunks to release more bite-sized for people to play and kind of keep a thing rolling? It almost sounds like, for what you're planning on the next one, it almost sounds like you're kind of using what the world you're creating as like the basis for iteration into other ideas that if it were one solid game would feel weird, but since you're doing it in kind of an episodic way, it's almost like they are their own game, but they're within this wider kind of world.
And I chose to do that for like a couple of reasons. Some of them were actually convenient for story, but one of them was just because I wanted so much custom stuff in there. I wanted a lot of custom art, I wanted custom music, and to like add those things on top of all the other like stuff it's a lot of space. So one thing is like it's just space. Like I didn't want them downloading this absolutely ginormous file and being like, like as it's downloading and it's like moving like a little millimeter, like shit, what I get myself into. But the other thing is like for story reasons, this like because like the beginning of the story and my websites are actually set up, it's supposed to be like found footage. So you know the story is like someone finds like this like flash drive, you know, like in the middle of the woods basically, and they're like, okay, well there's 3 files on it. And I kind of thought it would be really weird to just have one blog post with just this huge video file on it. Like, it wouldn't be realistic, to be honest. Like, that's just in, like, my opinion. It would just be, like, a little, like, overkill to be, like... And I've seen that before with a couple of games that are, like, found footage-y. I love, like, just for an example, like, think of the tapes in, like, Resident Evil 7. There's multiple tapes. If you put them all together or you, like, made, like... from Ethan's perspective, like a found footage, it wouldn't be as like fun. Like just because they're all separate and they have like different perspectives, like I thought that'd be like way more cool. So
I've not played Resident Evil 7.
I mean, I feel like that's really cool. You put that amount of thought into it. Yeah. That goes outside the game, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted something that had like a little sprinkle of meta, in it. Just a little bit.
Is it inspired at all by Marble Hornets?
I actually don't know what that is, so they answer no.
All right. Well, it's like this series on YouTube that was like, that's I guess kind of Spawn Slender. It's not with Spawn Slender Man, but it like really flushed out Slender Man.
Oh, okay.
Where it's basically like the main character finds a bunch of tapes that his friend had.
Oh,
and releases them one at a time.
Actually, a lot of the inspiration came from like me and my sisters wanting to do like a paranormal like vlogging thing, because we always thought that would be really fun. But then I'm like, that sounds like a lot of work. Like I'm a creative person, but damn, that's girl, that's one workload you don't want. So I was like, maybe another lifetime will do that. I'll just make it into a game instead. So.
But you do.
So no, I'm sorry, you go.
You do other things on YouTube though. You recently just started a Let's Play channel.
I did, yeah, with my friend Adam,
right.
who's in Wasting yesterday.
Right. What's his last name?
Tidridge.
Okay.
You got it?
No.
All right, perfect.
But yeah, we just started it. The second like video's up today, and it's really fun. It's just one of those things that like, because I do like so many creative things that like, it's really hard to like categorize them all. Like, like I literally just like a month ago made a separate Instagram for my gaming stuff. Before it was all like mishmashed in there.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of like my personal YouTube channel is like my music, so it's really hard to like kind of like social media wise like categorize everything. And it's like, oh, like if I made a Let's Play video, like where am I gonna put it? Like hello, like where is it going? So it was just nice that we just have like this like separate thing that it's just kind of like an outlet where we're just like, this is one thing that we've like always wanted to do, but like it's just separate from like our other stuff, but at the same time connected because it's still us, you know. So that's really fun.
What games are you playing on there so far, at least?
Our first running series is Franbo. I don't know if you've ever heard of Franbo. It's like a point and click psychological horror game. Really good. Definitely recommend. It's really good. And then we just kind of do like usually like we like to separate it up. Like one is more like a fun like kind of like a one time kind of thing, or like kind of like a fun thing that like we could come back to. Like we did Party Hard for like a video today. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
Nice.
That's like
I think I have.
Yeah, it's like a
game's
semi-horror game. I wouldn't say so. It's more like you just kill everybody at the party without
Like
getting
Hotline
caught.
Miami. Kinda?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's really
Okay.
cool. So that's kind of like really fun to do, but at the same time murderous.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, it's kind of still
Yeah.
in theme. And then we do like a demo kind of game. Like we try to do like some demo stuff or like early
neat.
access stuff. So we're playing
Cool.
Immure for that's going up Friday. So
What was it?
Immure. I don't know. Okay, this is like really getting into some indie-ness right
No, do
here.
it.
I'm ready
But
for it.
have you ever heard of Sally Face? The game
No.
Sally Face?
What?
Well, it's the same like art as them. Anyway,
That's so indie. Jeez.
look all these things and
That's my favorite
experience
part
them.
when you like start with
You'd
something indie
actually-
and you're like, you know what? Here's this other thing that's even more indie.
I think you'd
Yeah.
love it. You'd love Sally Face. You should
Okay.
look it up.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
What's it? Is it
what's it
also?
about?
That one's like a hand-drawn point-and-click adventure
Ooh.
game, horror game.
I love hand-drawn
Oh,
stuff.
and it's
Hand-drawn's insane.
really
So
it's
gorgeous.
It's pretty dope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mhm.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's so nice to just have like an outlet separate from like all my other stuff. Like I've always debated like, oh, do I want to make an art Instagram?
Yeah.
You know, for my digital art, do I and I've always had like this issue where I'm like, okay, is my personal Instagram my music Instagram, or like should I make a music Instagram? Because it's like, oh, I already got like 2,000 something. I don't
Well,
want.
yeah, that's the thing. Like splitting that
hard.
sucks.
Yeah,
you know?
like I shout it out a million times. 300 people look at my story on that Instagram,
Yeah.
and like 5 people follow my game. What I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
come on, guys. Oh, I thought you were better than this. Fake fans. No, I'm just kidding.
So
I love you guys.
besides doing the Let's Play channel with Adam, you also designed all of the art for his upcoming album and all the singles.
that
which,
was really fun.
which I learned like recently, and I just sort of made the connection because I've been staring at it for a while because we're the ones who got them up on all the music distribution sites.
Check out
And,
Wasting Yesterday, Apartment 32 out next 2 weeks.
On the 19th?
19th?
I don't know when this is going up, but
I
that's
don't
going to
know
be up on
when
the
it is
19th. But they have Beaches and Yellow Roses up already. All of that artwork is yours. That's really cool. I love this style. Like, it all just fits.
Mm-hmm.
What was that process like working with Adam? Did he have that sort of style in mind, or was he just like, go?
Well, he was my friend before that, so he was very patient with
Okay.
me. I literally just, like, I've been doing art for a long time, like sketch art and line art, and I actually have, like, a whole pack of Copic markers that are, like, in the past now that I have a tablet, but...
This is what I mean. She does all the cool things. Like, it's
Press
all of
F
them.
for respect for
Yeah,
my Copic
exactly.
markers that will never be touched again. But I just got a tablet, like, last December, and I started fiddling around with it, like, maybe, like, a couple months after that, so... during, I guess, like, the end of the semester last spring, he was like, oh, do you want to do some art? And I was like, it was, like, me learning everything for, like, the first time, so I was like, oh, man, like, I can, but, like, hold up, homeboy, you're gonna have to look at a couple drafts. After that, like, the first few pieces, I was like, okay, like, we'll see if he likes it. He's like, these are great. I'm like, okay, great, cool, we got
I'm
it
onto
down.
something.
Yes, oh, fantastic. So then, after that, I was like, okay, I'm getting used to the tools, like, 'cause I've never used, like, a digital art, like,
Yeah.
studio stuff ever. Like, I was like, I can't, like, smudge stuff with my thumb. Like, I'm like, what is
Yeah,
this? Like, oh, it's, like, another world. So, then at the next few ones after that, and, like, the last few ones was like, oh, this is prime. This is
Yeah.
absolutely prime. It's steaming. It was beautiful. So it was great. So that actually, like, helped me with, like, a lot of my experience, like, just, like, doing digital art. Like, because I was, like, motivated and determined to, like, do it for somebody. So it had to
Yeah.
be good.
Right.
You know
And
what I mean? So,
Adam so far has been pretty fun to work with anyway, so he's
Yeah.
like a good person to start with.
Yeah.
and if he, like, if he's like, oh, like, the last, like, when we were doing Beaches, like, like, it's whatever he wants. So, like, at first I had, like, 2 sketches. I'm like, you want this or this? He's like, both. And I combined them. He's like, never mind. Like, I had this one guy, like drinking a beer, and he's like, take the guy out. I'm like, oh, whatever. So, like, it's all what it is. So that was really fun and cool. So good experience. I take everything as a learning experience.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah.
anytime that I'm pressured to, like, have to do it for someone, all the better, because, like,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
forces me to do good. Like,
Yeah.
you have to do good.
And then that's going to translate into when you're doing art for your next game projects and stuff
yeah.
like that. So
I actually did my own artwork. Like, I started doing, like, that pop art kind of stuff, like, for my own music. When I released my music, like, last November on
There-
iTunes and Spotify.
I really like the I forget what the name of the song was, but the one where it's like phone going in an IV in an arm.
It's called "If You Don't Notice Me, I'll Die."
If You Don't
And that's
Notice
my
Me, yeah.
favorite
I
song
think that's
of
the
yours.
first one I listened to.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah,
these
I love
vocals
that
are
one.
nuts.
I love that art.
I really dug
Yeah.
that song.
Yeah, so I started doing like the pop art kind of stuff where it was like, you know, like faceless but still like human-like
Yeah.
kind of stuff. I love that kind of deal. Like, I know people hate drawing hands. I love drawing hands.
That's funny because we've had one other artist on who was like, I know people hate drawing hands, but I love drawing hands. So-
They just look cool.
That's
Anyway,
funny.
You guys should start a club
Yeah.
of artists who like
yeah,
drawing
hand
jars.
drawers.
Yeah. I actually that album artwork that you did for that song and like the other ones reminds me of like the Front Bottoms a lot.
Oh, yeah.
With some of their
Do you listen to the
album
Front Bottoms?
artwork.
I've only like a little bit. I'm not like deep in it.
I just know their album art.
They're just like my
Yeah,
favorite
their album
band.
art's tight.
Whatever.
Hey, Chandler, you ready to go in December?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, dude, I'll fly right up there for that concert.
So yeah, like when I did like that like album work, that was like completely on paper and I just photo scanned it. Like you know, so that was like I was in a different place then. I didn't have my drawing tablet. Like
Right.
you know, that was like my Copic markers and like my colored pencil stuff. So, you know, that was what it was. But yeah, it's on iTunes and Spotify. Again, back at it.
What name is it under?
Courtney Calle.
Okay.
Just my normal name.
Perfect.
My me name.
Just my me name.
That's the one. I got
You're-
it for my birthday, you know. I gotta use it.
You're involved in doing so many different
Yeah.
things. Like your hands are in so many different cookie jars.
Oh, I like that. I thought you were gonna say in different pots, and I
Yeah.
was like cookie jars. I like the sound of that little snickerdoodle
Yeah.
type of shit.
Yes.
I'm feeling it.
Oh yeah.
I'm interested to know like where are your obviously you
Yeah.
love everything you do and it fulfills probably a big creative like void in you with every kind of different thing that you're involved in, like your music and the videos and game design, but like what is your main focus kind of like what would you love to take off more?
Honestly, that is like a really hard question because like I feel like I started with writing. Like I actually started writing poetry before I could sing. Like I started writing like kind of song stuff before I could sing, and then I actually went
It's
to
usually
like
how it goes.
then I actually went to like lessons and like actually no, that's not how it goes usually. I gotta say, like a lot of girls they're like, I've been singing since I've been talking, and I'm like, all right, Shirley.
Well, I'm
whatever.
sure they've been singing since they were talking.
Yeah,
but-
and I'm like, yeah, okay.
Like
whatever.
I've been singing
But
for a while. It's not great though.
Yeah.
It's like whatever,
Yeah.
Susan. I sounded like a dead goat until I was 10, so I
Yeah.
don't want to hear it.
I
so
still sound like a dead goat. So.
occasionally, and so I started with like writing, and I've actually like this is a project that I never really talk about. Is that I've actually written a book. I've actually written a fiction novel, and like that was like the first like big project I ever finished, and I finished that when I was like 17, and then I was halfway through like another fiction novel when I was like, oh, like I just felt like how young I was and like my lack of experience with like editing and stuff. I just wasn't like in a good place to be like, let me push this to people. Like I was like,
Yeah.
I need to finish like getting my degree and like kind of get more perspective of like like reading other stuff to like be able to like edit that thing and publish it and have it like sound not from like 17-year-old.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was like a back burner thing. So I was starting to like I was doing music at that time as well. Like I released my first like album thing when I was like 16. Lord knows that's like not anywhere up in space anymore, but it only lives in like my dad's car. But
Nice.
but then after that, like you know, with like the music stuff really took off. I was on American Idol in high school.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
I was 16. I was on season 12. That's the one with like Nicki Minaj and Keith Urban and Mariah Carey.
Jeez.
Wow.
And so that's like I
How
kind
does-
of just did it for fun, but then like I actually like went far with it. So that really pushed like my music
How
career.
far'd you go?
I went to Hollywood Week and I got eliminated in group night.
Wow.
Yeah, that was.
I wish
quite
I
the
knew what that
experience.
meant.
I only
'Cause,
sort
like,
of know
I've
what
never
that
seen
means.
that
I
show
do.
You get the
before.
I
golden
do.
ticket and you fly over there.
I'm impressed though. I don't know what it means,
That's
but
awesome.
I'm impressed.
Oh, yeah.
It was really cool. But like that's what really jumped my like music career.
Wow.
And then after that, I was like kind of missing like writing stuff. Like I was really missing like writing songs is one thing, but like writing stories and making up characters and
Yep.
everything. Like I just really miss that.
I wish I had time to do more writing because I feel the same way about that sort of thing.
Yeah, and it really does take up a lot of time. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, like, whenever I decide to, like, edit those, like, stories, I know it's going to be, like, a 2-year chunk
Yeah.
of, like,
Yeah.
that's your life for now, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, that's me.
Oh, I must
God.
have
Best
haircut, by the way.
Nice.
Don't try it.
Do you have any good stories from that experience?
Oh,
Like ridiculous
actually-
things that happen?
Oh.
Can you talk trash
do
to anybody
I?
famous?
Oh, do I?
There we go. This is why you're here. Let's do it. Come on.
You know, it was funny because we were talking about Mariah Carey earlier before we started this, and I have to say, like, she's something. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, like, what was Nicki Minaj like? Like, I bet she's a diva. And honestly, Nicki Minaj was the realest person on there. Like,
Wow.
It was crazy.
I
Like,
kind of believe that.
she was awesome. Like, they kind of, like, when we did the New York audition, they all came out for, like, a little piece of advice, like, to, like, show up and be like, hi, guys, we're here, and, like, good luck and stuff like that. And Rainey Jackson was like, yo, you got this, dog. And, like, that's about it. Like,
Yeah,
he was like, all right, I'm done.
You
Thanks
could
for having
have
me.
made that up. And
Been
it
here,
would've
done
been the
that.
same
You know, I
thing.
was like, okay, cool. And then Keith Urban was just like, yeah, good luck, guys. It was pretty cool. I'm like, all right, thanks, buddy. Thanks, pal. And then Nicki Minaj was like, guys, I'm just letting you know, like, this is your moment. We are here for you. Okay, we're here to listen to what you got. And, like, just give us all that you got. Like, this is your chance. And, like, she just kept going on. I was, like, crying. I was like, Nikki, girl. Oh, girl. You know, I was, like, about it. I was, like, oh, wow. She's actually, like, real. She's like, don't be nervous. We all started where you started. Like,
Yeah.
no matter, like, no, like, all of us.
Yeah.
Like, we started where you were. So, like, this is not the time to be nervous. This is the time to, like, step up. And I was, like,
Hell yeah.
oh, my God.
Hell yeah.
You ever name
I
drop
was-
that? You were like, yeah, I got an inspirational speech from Nicki Minaj.
Oh.
Well, it's no big deal.
Oh, I brag about that low key a lot. I'm like, she said my outfit was cute.
Did she?
Okay, yeah, she did.
That's amazing.
That makes our brag way worse.
What?
Ours is like we were on NPR.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell
Like
you,
10
Mariah
minutes.
Carey, I don't know what drug she's on, but I don't want any part of it. Like,
Really?
dude.
Jeez.
Okay, so she came out and she, like, everything she said was so vague
Mm-hmm.
and not direct. Like, you'd hear, like, sometimes you could, like, actually watch people audition for certain rounds, and she'd be like, you just have this thing. I don't know. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And I'm like, girl, I don't know what you mean. I do not know what you mean. Like, tell me that thing. She's like, you just have this you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, she's like my
Right,
little
yeah.
ladybug. You
I
really
got this
just,
now.
you know. And I'm like, no, I don't. No. And literally every time I saw her, it was like, I don't know if you've ever seen like The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. Like, if
I'm
you've ever
familiar,
seen
yeah.
Mr. Tipton, where he's like got the guys around
Yeah.
him, the one arm comes out. That's
Yeah.
Mariah Carey. Like all the dudes like around her,
I'm
and it's
sure,
like
yeah.
Mariah Carey. She's like, one arm comes out of like the, you know, the bunch, you know. So that was interesting. Nikki, she had like two dudes, and she'd be like, oh hey, like. Like, what, you know, anytime that we, like, showed up at 7 and didn't film till 3:30, it was because of Mariah Carey, but,
Oh.
Jeez.
yeah, so that was crazy, but, honestly, like, being on reality television is insane, like, you learn so much about the world, especially being 16, like,
Yeah,
you know,
I
small
imagine.
town girl going to Hollywood, like, you learn a lot, you learn that, like, it's not at all, like, what it is, like, basically, they would run you down. They'd get you hungry, they'd get you tired,
Yep.
so that you'd start stuff with people.
Yep.
Like, they would, like, put
Really?
you in that
Yeah,
ring.
oh yeah, hell yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I
so,
believe that. I know that happens. I didn't realize it was an American Idol thing.
yeah,
too,
so they'd have, like, they'd be like, okay, come down for breakfast at 6 at the ballroom. It's like, okay, 6 a.m. I'm down at the ballroom. We, like, bus over there at 7. Auditions start at 3:30. We do an audition round. You know, some people are out, some people are in. I stayed in. And then, like, I probably, like, they started at 3:30. I went at probably, like, 6:30-ish.
Wow.
And then after that, we just waited. Like, we were probably all done at, like, 8:30. Like, all, like, I want to say, like, 200 of us that were left, maybe. Like, just waiting. Just waiting. And then finally at 12:30, the producer's like, oh, okay, guys, bring it in. And I was like, it's been 6 hours! It's been 6 hours since we've heard from you guys. Like, oh, guys, bring it in. Bring it in. They're like, okay, we're going to start, you know, selecting groups for group night. And, you know, we picked them this time, you know, yada, yada, yada. They start giving out the stuff. They start giving out the CDs for the songs for you to practice with. And, like, they give you, like, the lyric sheets and everything. And you're like, okay. So it's like now 1 o'clock a.m. And you're like, okay, we got to practice this. Breakfast is at 6. Like, we got to go. So we're practicing in that, like, that auditorium kind of place. Like, up until, I would say, like, 3:30 a.m. We got back, then we, like, finally were like, okay, we gotta go. So we taxied back to the hotel and practiced in the ballroom until 4:30. And then, you know, homegirl's gotta look her best. So I went to sleep for, like, maybe 45 minutes and then got up at, like, 5
Yeah.
And then, you know, at that point, breakfast is at 6, and then they, like, huddle you into the bus, and then you're kind of, like, practicing, and, you know, and then, like, everyone's, like, really tired, so there's, like, all this, like, I can't practice right now. I need to, like, take a minute. I'm like, girl, we don't got a minute. We got, like, 3 hours to this stuff is starting. Like, what are you doing? Like, oh, girl, like, and you know what's, like, funny is that, like, they pit you against each other, so, like, towards the, like, you know, towards those parts.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm friends on Facebook and Instagram with some of them. Like, it's like, oh, low-key, girl, I know we went through some stuff, but, like, we ain't like that, like, when we're at home.
Yeah.
We are not like that when
It's
we
like
are not, like,
war or
hungry and
something.
tired. So, like, I support you and your music. Like, we're, you know, we're good. We're Gucci. We're friends. Like, that time, please ignore that. That was my bad me. That was my bad self. And then and what's crazy is, like, after I got eliminated, like, all these camera people, like, come towards the people that were eliminated, which is, like, me, you know, and having, like, all these cameras in your face, you're like, oh, crap. And, like, they're like, how do you feel? Are you disappointed? Are you mad? I'm like, oh, no, I'm, like, really blessed to be here. Like, I got this far. Like, I'm 16 years old. I came from, like, you know, Newtown, Pennsylvania. Like, that's pretty damn amazing. And they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, we're going to go towards the crying girl right now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like, it's crazy.
That's how you really win. Even
There's,
when
like,
you go
maybe,
out,
like,
that's
one-
how you actually win.
There's, like, maybe, like, one camera person that you're like, you're cool. The rest of them, they're just, like, that's it. They're just cameras. It's, like, crazy.
Wow.
But, you know, when you're, like, you know, with each other, eating with each other, crying with each other for the last, like, 48 hours, like, you make a lot of friends, and, like, a lot of people make enemies with you. I honestly didn't make enemies, but a lot of people
There's
be
any
like,
time to
"Hey,"
make
it's like, whoa.
enemies.
No, I'm like, yo, we're in this
It's like
boat
we-
together, guys. Like, start rowing. Like,
Start
Oh, man.
rowing.
so that was a cool experience. Like, it really opens you up to, like, you know what? Stuff happens. You don't get it, that's fine. Like, but there's more stuff after that. Like, when
Oh,
I got
yeah.
home, I had so many, like, gigs lined up in, like, New York and
Yeah.
Jersey
Wow.
and, like, all over the place. Because, like, people were like, oh, you aren't American Idol at all. And that's freaking cool.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't care if I won or, like, got top 10 or whatever. Like, that was still cool. I was in, like, the top, like, maybe 75, like, 85 people. Like, that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all in all, like, no matter, like, what happens, like, you're still gonna have success after that. Like, it's either a learning experience or it opens a door.
Like, if your life ends after you lose American Idol, then I don't know. You gotta figure something out, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, you ever try knitting?
Yeah.
Or- you ever want to pick up a sport?
It's like, well, I lost American Idol, so there's nothing left for me to do with my
yeah,
life.
like, come on. Get out of the pity party. You
Yeah.
know? It's alright. Stuff happens. So, that was something?
Did you ever think about doing that again?
No, but literally everybody that knows me has told me to do it again.
Well, I'm not
They're
telling,
like,
but
they're like, oh, you gotta do the voice now. You gotta do the voice. American Idol's old school. You gotta do the voice. I'm like, what? I just did this big thing, and you want me to do another big thing? Like, oh my god. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just, out of everything, it's really time consuming. Like, fortunately, I was in high school, so I could, like, leave class for, like, a month, and, like, no one be like, oh, like, where'd she go?
Yeah.
Like, they're like, oh, she said American Idol. That's so cool. Like, if you,
Yeah.
like, miss, like, a month worth of, like, intervals at, like, in college, you're screwed.
you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's not gonna work.
Yep.
And it's very, like, last minute. Like, you audition in the summer, and then they're like, we'll contact you sometime in November when to show up December. Or, like,
Jesus.
and you're like, it'll be like November 20 something, and they're like, yeah, December 3rd, I'd really like if you could be in Newark, New Jersey at 6 a.m.
Oh
in
my
front of the
God.
stadium. You're like, what? So, and every show's like that. Like, I've actually auditioned for X Factor. I've done The Voice before, actually, like, before American Idol, just as, like, my test run, but they're all like that, where it's, like, very last minute, up until, like, the very, like, if you're in, like, the finals is when they're finally like, okay, like, we have the plan set up because, like, you know, they have that studio time, like, already planned for their finals.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, like, the cattle call auditions, they're like, yeah, we'll figure that out later. I don't know. So I don't think I might, but most likely no. I just do this for fun. I don't really
Yeah.
care
I
I
about,
don't blame
like,
you.
yeah.
yeah, I've always just wanted to be like, oh, like, I'd be cool with, like, an indie label. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm just doing this for, like, when it comes to music, like, you know how I said, like, artists either, like, do it for the people or they do it for themselves? Music, it's definitely for myself. I just put whatever the heck I want out there, and if you
Yeah.
like it, cool. Like,
that's good because then you can just sort of pull back and you have your own thing for you, and then you have the stuff you do for other people.
Yeah, right. So, yeah,
also,
I'd have to say music is not my audience
No.
pleasing activity.
It's also nice to have that because then you can be like, I'm just gonna take like a month off and don't worry about it, and I'll come back to it when I feel like it. Because if I force myself to write anything, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah, sometimes I'll be like, I've been in front of my drawing tablet for like 3 weeks now, up until 3 a.m. for like the whole time. Like I'm gonna take this week off.
Yeah, you gotta.
And
you gotta set aside time for you.
Yeah, and I'm not really bereft of anything. If I do take that break, I'm cool. Like I'm not missing anything.
Good word.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like that?
That was a good
Spicy.
word. I don't even know what it means.
It's such a good word.
At a loss for something.
That makes sense.
Can you say that again?
Bereft.
That was nice. Okay, good.
I'm
We're good.
bereft
the
of
word
the
of the day.
definition of
Word
bereft.
of the day. Should we have a word of the day? We're not gonna have a word
Yeah,
of the
you
day.
should.
Word of the week. Yeah, we were the worst part of your Wednesday this week. If we were actually live.
Oh, you're
Remember
right.
that
I forgot.
joke? Jeez,
Yeah, that
that's
was a
going
good one.
back.
Because didn't we start the show on Wednesdays? That was how we
Wednesdays at
first
11.
started.
Yeah.
We're back
Yeah.
on Wednesdays.
Except this isn't going up on Wednesday.
No, it doesn't.
We're still going to be the worst part of your Wednesday.
We're only the worst part of Courtney's
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah, that's
all.
probably true. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are actually pretty much getting ready to wrap up.
Are we?
I mean, we have a few minutes.
Can we cover one more thing?
We don't need to.
We can.
We don't need to stop right this second. No.
We don't.
Am I allowed to talk more? Though?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
So you have professional wandering as in your description on something, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like I'm a huge hippie. I gotta be honest. Like I am
Nice.
a huge hippie. So like when I say like professional wanderer, I don't necessarily mean like I'm not one of those girls that has like an airplane emoji in their bio. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
Honey, I'm not really going nowhere. But like my brain is going
Yeah, tell me
places. My
about it.
art's going places. You know what I'm saying? So and obviously
Okay.
like I'm really trying to travel more. I'm actually going to Salem with my friend. Halloween weekend, so I am
sounds cool.
psyched
Spooky.
about that. It's gonna be so cool. But yeah, I guess that would be my definition of wanderer, just being like open and like, oh, I'm going here. That's cool. My
So
life's
you-
taking me here.
So even
Sweet.
though you live here, it's not like you're not like rooted here, kind of.
No.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, at the end of it, I'd probably like come back home, but like,
You gotta have somewhere to come back to.
right, yeah. But as far as like reaching out, whatever. I'll go wherever.
Are you a fan of that Fallout 4 trailer where they use that song, The Wanderer? And then,
Is that you? Is that song about you?
is that about
Oh my
you?
God.
I'd like it to be about me. No, it's not about me. But I don't know. I mean, Fall for It is all right.
Are you excited for Fallout?
I
the
70, I
official-
approve of that message.
I mean, I don't
We're
really
gonna put
play
that on the
Fallout,
Game of the
I
Year
gotta be
edition
honest.
box.
Fair enough.
I admire
Fallout
it from
4 is
afar.
okay.
That makes sense. I realize we skipped something in here. I don't. Do we care enough to
did,
go back
we
to
did.
it? Sharon, do you want to talk about Undertale or something?
So we had. Well, I was interested because you were like, well, I want to make a game, which right off the bat is a pretty big undertaking and a very big thing to just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna do that. I'm just gonna make a game. So you decide to do that, but did you have any particular video game that you played like indie style that was made by a small team or one person or something that you were like, oh, this is possible and an obtainable realistic thing, and this I loved this, so I can do that. Like I'm gonna try that. Was there a game like that you played?
Honestly, like you were talking about Undertale, and I have played it, and like I was always intimidated because like a lot of like game devs were like teams usually, and like I was like, oh, there's no way I could actually do like all these aspects by myself. Like that was like my mentality. But then I saw like all these like this whole thing like was one person. I was like, well, shit, what am I doing? Like that, my excuse is gone
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
I was at that point, like I was like, you know what? Yeah. And then I actually saw a couple of other like RPG Maker horror games, and it was like, oh, just one person. I was like, well, okay, well, isn't that a kick in the shin? Because like I have to do it now.
Yeah.
Like no
Yeah.
excuses at that point. So
If they can do it, I can do it.
right, and I have I have limitations of like what I can do. Like, like
Yeah, but
I will
we all
never
do.
be like a hardcore like musician. Like I could play instruments, but you will not see me like Jimmy jamming away like on a guitar any time in my life. I gotta be honest.
Jimmy jamming.
So
I've seen you Jimmy jam on a ukulele.
Yeah, uke's fun, but I don't know. Like I'm all about them chords. Piano's different. I can Jimmy jam on piano, but like you know what I mean. I know some limitations of like myself, and I'm like, okay, maybe I won't dabble in that necessarily. And I just saw like game making, and I was like, you know what? I see some potential strengths in that. I see some like things that I could actually do. Like most of like the obstacles for people were like the creative aspects and like the immersive aspects, like music. They were like, like a lot of like critics I saw, they were like, okay, I know what site this song is from, low key. Like this song is called this, and you can get it online for $1. Like they would like they know like that song, they know the sound effects, like they know like you know the artwork. Gross. They're like, do you see this like this asset? Like that's just a regular Unity asset. Like they'll be like, oh, generic, and I'll be like, see, these are the issues that like I'm all right with. Like I can do that. Like most of the like really small obstacles, I was like I could do that, and most of like the big obstacles were just kind of like me learning the thing, like learning the program at all. So I was up for the challenge. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. That's all right.
And talk about limitations actually not holding you back. I was talking to one of my coworkers the other day who's also like a game developer. That's what he wants to do, and we were talking about Undertale because it's been an inspiration for him and myself, like when I did game design and stuff in high school. And he said that Toby Fox actually does not really know how to program at all, and he used Game Maker for Undertale, and there's a feature of Game Maker where like you can code really hard in Game Maker and make a game that way, but it also has
like presets.
Presets where you can essentially kind of like, if anyone's ever used Scratch or something, like where you can kind of loosely program things, not like you're coding it, but you're just kind of telling the program what to do and the sequences of things to do and stuff. It's very like basic. He made the entire game that way. Right. Like he didn't really program. For the few things he did need to program, he got like some of his friends to help him with, and that was like it. Like he made the whole game like that, which I thought was mind-blowing, because it was one more big barrier dropped of like, he didn't even know how to code and he did that. So like,
oh, trust me, I don't code.
Oh my god.
I just Google that crap if I have to do any of that. If anything, it's like one line of script that's just like a little tidbit in there. Like you open up like like the little text window and you're like, paste, done. Guys, I coded, amazing. But like that's the thing with RPG Maker too, is that like that's basically the same thing. You open you right click to make an event. You right click and you're like, show picture, set movement, all this other like stuff that's like just there, game over screen appear, like, like
that's cool.
So that's obviously that's like, it would be an obstacle to me if I wanted to use another program, but like my purpose is really to just kind of like showcase what I could do with it, and like with what RPG Maker does, I'm like, you know what, I'm good. So
and you're pushing the boundaries for that as well, which is cool. And who knows how much more you can do that and take that in other ways, and that's got to be exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Sometimes I think it's cooler to take something that does have a lot of obstacles and hard limits and barriers, and then being like, I'm gonna work in this constrained space and see how I can push the limitations of it. I think that's more interesting sometimes, and will breed more creative and interesting things as a result of trying to break the norm of how that thing is used, as opposed to just being like, I'm gonna get Unreal Engine or Unity, I'm gonna make something like kind of shitty, because there's so much you can do and you're not even gonna come close to needing all that, so then it's gonna feel like a really small thing and a big thing.
And what's funny is that, like, usually the people that don't push boundaries are the people that have used the program for a long time. Like, usually, like, I see a lot of people that, like, have had RPG Maker, like, younger versions of it, like, since, like, 2000-something, like, 2003 or something really ridiculously early. They're like, I've been making games forever. And then you're like, okay, but they're, like, still basic RPG games. Yeah. And you're like, okay. But then, like, you get the new people that are, like, they don't know the limitations of the program. Me, for example, I was like, oh, I really want an NPC to like chase the person, and when the NPC touches them, something happens, like they die, right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna make that, and it turns out RPG Maker like doesn't have a default thing for that. Like they, you know, if you like go over there and touch them, like something will happen, but they're not gonna come after you. They don't have like a radius of spotting you. Like there's no like, you know, AI chase stealth mechanic crap in RPG Maker. So I was like, you know what? No, but I'm determined. Like that's most like my plan was to like make it like that. So I'm gonna do it. So
you're gonna do it.
I did a lot of research. I found this one plugin, and I was like, I'm doing it. And then it involved me like copying and pasting a lot of different script, and I'm like, and eventually it worked. And I was like, look at that! I have an RPG Maker NPC chasing the main character, and like through a really, really long hallway. And if they get touched, they die. Like that's pretty cool. Like it's a, you know, when you first have like a program, you don't know the limitations, so you're like, oh, let's just go all in.
It's like, I want to do this, and then the program's like, I can't really do that.
And of course
I'm gonna do
like,
it anyway.
And of course there's like, you know, some boundaries, like, you know, I can't be like, oh, like, let me just, you know, let me use RPG Maker to make like a point and click or something. Like obviously like there's some things like you really can't do, but like, you know, you could at least try it, and you're like brave enough to be like, all right, I don't, you know, I know it probably don't, but I want to make it do. So like, let's just see what happens. So yeah, I think it's the new people that are like more of like pushing the edge, because they see all these other games and like, oh, I want to make a game kind of like that. Like, let's go. Let's see what it can do.
And then hopefully it won't be so hard for people to find how to do the crazy things in RPG Maker. Because I imagine that's not easy. I imagine you have to dig.
A little bit.
Sure.
Like, but you kind of learn like where to look and stuff like that.
A lot of like forum posts, like 3 upvotes or something.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly what I need.
You're like, thank God. I've been looking for you all my life. This little line of script.
I like that though. I like that the people that are pushing the boundaries are the people that like they don't know, and they're just gonna go in and they're not gonna take no for an answer. Like they're just gonna make it happen.
And of course there's people on the other side of that have had it for a long time and share the secrets with the new people, which thank God for that.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, hey, I made this script because I couldn't stand not having it. So they'll make it themselves, and like you could download it and be like, thank God you made this script, bro, because like, you know, I'm not gonna make it myself. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like such a good it's such a good system that's going on. Thank God.
Well, we do have to wrap it up, Pat and Chandler.
Is it time?
I'm sorry, it's actually time. Thank you so much. Like I said, you are literally all of the cool and creative things that somebody can be.
I feel way lamer after this podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Definitely. I need to go do something important and constructive and creative after this.
You're doing it all. Where can people find all of the things?
All the things? Actually, most of my stuff is like rooted, like the trunk of my stuff is like Instagram.
Okay.
My personal Instagram, which is at Courtney Calle, and from there.
C-A-L-L-E.
Yeah, C-A-L-L-E with a C. I'm not a Kardashian.
No.
Don't spell it with a K. And most of my stuff like is from that, but my game is right now it's on Itch.io, it's on Game Jolt. And it is $2, but you know, it's my first like big project, so help a sister out. And my music is on Spotify and iTunes, and I do have a YouTube channel that has all those songs on there as well. So, and that's under my personal one as well, Courtney Calle.
All right. Pat, is there anything you would like to plug? Huge shout out to the entire Kennedy family for letting us raid their basement every other week. We literally could not be there without them, so that's pretty cool.
Well, we could, but it'd be illegal.
It would be illegal, yeah. Yeah.
It'd be breaking in then, right?
How long do you think we can fit an entire show before the police show up?
Ooh,
that's a great idea.
Challenge, dude.
Oh no!
All right,
you want to come back next
podcast challenge?
Oh, I do have one more plug.
Sure.
Adam will be really mad if I don't do this.
Oh
but,
yeah.
My brand new.
Oh yeah.
Only a couple days old baby Let's Play channel. It's got 2 videos, but they're pretty good videos. So go watch them. It's at Indie Geek Inc. on YouTube, and we have Indie Geek Inc. on Instagram as well. So check that out.
You can also check out Wasting Yesterday. They're putting out new music like every week or every 2 weeks at the moment.
Yeah.
You can either follow them on Facebook. You can follow us on Facebook, because we're posting every single time that any of that stuff gets released on the Lab 212 Facebook. page. Follow us on LabD12
We
everywhere.
have a concert coming up on the 26th of October
In a
at
mega.
Jasper
Yes,
Mountain.
dude.
All the info
gonna be
for
lit.
that's on Facebook. And everyone should go.
Come out to the show, dude. Get to the gig. It's gonna be lit.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Chandler won't
Big
be
Halloween
there.
Show.
So
I
you
will
know it's
not.
going to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You got me.
That's
No,
true.
you guys are gonna project my face on a
Yeah,
wall.
we-
Yeah.
But we have to
Just
I'll just
tape
be
it.
looming
Take a
over
laptop.
everybody.
Yeah, we're going to tape an iPad to a Segway, but I think that would cost more than the rest of our expenses, so I don't know if
Can
we
you
could do
guys
that.
like Wizard of Oz the fuck out of me? Like, please,
Oh my
Amazing.
god, we get a smoke machine, a projector? We could probably do that.
please, dude.
Like, who is that sick child projected on the wall? Let me give him a vitamin.
That's really scary.
If for $1 you can throw a vitamin at Chandler's face on the wall.
I'll do it, dude.
We found it. We can get profitable now.
And keep an eye out for Wasting Yesterday. They got a brand new album coming out very, very shortly,
Yep.
and it's gonna be lit. And I'm really excited for everyone to hear it because we would really enjoy it,
I'm
and we've
excited.
enjoyed working with it so far.
I think that's it.
Sly Elliott on
That's it.
everything.
Sly Elliott on everything. Make sure you follow Chandler, God forbid. Thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for making the
Thank you.
drive. Like I said, I made that
Yes.
drive twice
It's quite
recently.
the
It
trek, yeah.
sucks. So thank you for coming all the way down. I appreciate
of
it.
course.
And everyone have a good night.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.